It is time for one of my most favorite things to talk about, and that is living seasonally and my spring bucket list and low to no cost things that you too can do to celebrate spring. And we are gonna hop right into it because I have so many springish things that are full of whimsy and joy to talk about. So the first one is backyard picnics. And I know this sounds simple, but in a lot of places, summer is too hot for picnics. It's too hot, it's not comfortable. Spring is the most perfect time, especially going into May soon. I feel like that is the ultimate weather for spring picnics, and you can do it in your own backyard. Do it in your backyard, your balcony, your patio, your porch. If none of those are an option, bring a blanket to the park in your neighborhood. It doesn't have to be complicated. Pack a little picnic basket with some seasonal goodies. Maybe like go to the store, get a little baguette. You can get them for $1 or $2, especially if you're looking in the section that they need to sell off today. Get some little cheeses, berries, nuts, seed. Just go through your pantry, find what you have. Grab a handful of peanuts, grab a bottle of sparkling water or sparkling juice, bring your book, journal, a friend, whatever it might be, and just go sit outside. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to buy a meal or anything wild. Use what you have. I am somebody where I keep a blanket, it's like just an extra quilt that I thrifted, in the trunk of my car at all times. I keep a couple extra blankets too in case it's chilly, but that way, no matter where I am, if I want to just set up and have a little makeshift picnic, I can. And I love that so much in these transitional seasons of time just warming up. And if you are maybe driving through a rainy day and then the sun comes out, spread the blanket in the back of your car, pop the trunk open, and just enjoy the sun. That's what I love so much about spring, is the weather can change very quick. It's quite literally snowing in April as I'm filming this, but it makes you appreciate the sun that much more. It's like we're defrosting and coming out of hibernation. The next thing on my spring bucket list is tea parties. Now I have these ridiculously cute Beatrix Potter Peter Rabbit. This one's Benjamin Bunny little teacup and teapot, but it doesn't have to be fancy. You can use the mug, the coffee mug that you have. Maybe you want to have a coffee tea party if you're not into tea. Not everybody's into tea, and that's okay. But I think that this is a wonderful way to romanticize spring. We like to just go into our little balcony and have our little tea. I like to make it a little extra whimsical. I like to add as much whimsy as I can into my day. So like I said, I've got my fancy little teapot, which I'll fill with tea, and then I'll try and find some little jars that I have kicking around the house. Or if you've thrifted little like decanters that you can use to fill with a little bit of sugar, use one of your little teaspoons, fill with some cream if you're into cream in your coffee, whatever it might be, just to make it a little more beautiful for you to enjoy your tea party. I think that a lot of life is just about romanticizing things, and all of us really need to find these little pockets of peace and joy now more than ever, I think. So I like a little tea party. I like to have my little seasonal cocktail napkins. I have some very precious Peter Rabbit napkins. And listen, I used to be someone, and I grew up with a mother who buys these beautiful seasonal napkins, sets them out, and everyone's either too scared to use them or too scared to even set them out. I am using the beautiful things. I am treating every day as a special occasion, and I love to use my little Peter Rabbit napkins for my little tea parties, even if I'm just having it inside on a snowy, rainy day like today, making a tea tray for yourself and setting it up with your tea and your journals and your little napkins that have bunnies on them or whatever it might be. I'm sure it comes as no surprise that I was the child that wanted to play tea parties with all of my stuffed animals, and I would still do that today with my Jellycats. But I think that that is just kind of in the same way of picnics, just a wonderful way to enjoy the nice weather while we have it and just fulfill yourself with all of your childhood secret garden hopes and dreams. The next thing on my spring bucket list, no surprise to anyone who follows me everywhere else online, is birding. It's birding, but in particular, because nature and outdoorsy things are coming back into the shops, go get yourself a window bird feeder. I got mine at the dollar store for $4, and it has suction cups, and we've had it for 3 years now, and it's held up wonderfully. We have it in our living room, and we did put anti-collision tape up as well so that the birdies don't hurt themselves. But that thing brings both me and anyone that comes to our place so much joy. To just be sitting there having your tea or having your lunch and having a cardinal and the blue jays and the mourning doves and the chickadees all just flocking up to your window is so neat. If you have cats, this could also make wonderful entertainment. But this is something that has been incredibly enriching in our lives, and with spring a lot of the birds are migrating back. We're seeing different migration patterns. Nesting season is upon us. Now we choose to feed a nesting blend just to fortify extra calcium and nutrients. We're a little extra. I am the weird bird lady, and I'm totally fine with that. I embrace it so much, and I just love to help other people find the joy of birds, these magical little critters that we often overlook in our days. Even just going downtown now, I know way too much about pigeons and feel so sad for what humans have done to them, but it's so beautiful to just appreciate them, to look up in the trees when you're on a walk or in the park and to be able to notice what they are. Merlin is one of my favorite apps. It's like Shazam for bird sounds, and it's how I learned to identify bird sounds myself. So I don't really need the app anymore unless there's like some weird hawks or eagles or something in the area that maybe are less common that I'm not familiar with. But it is so neat to be that person. And like, yes, we're the youngest people with memberships at the bird store that we go to, but it is so neat to me to be able to connect more with nature and to understand that. We live in such a digital world, which I know there is some irony in saying that as I am putting this out on the internet, but we live so online, and it's so nice to even just crack your window open. That's why I say the window bird feeder is so nice, because you don't even have to go outside. But I think that spring and the birds just go together like peanut butter and jelly. Now, this next one surprised me a little bit, and it is going to the drive-in. I didn't even realize that the drive-in opens so early. I'm not sure when exactly ours opened, but I thought to just check the other day, because I'm like, you know what, it was so nice going late in the fall in kind of the off season, because summer gets so busy. And I was like, you know what, maybe they're open. You know, there's snow still, but it's not as cold, and they are open. And I've never done the drive-in in spring before. We've recently became drive-in people, but I think that is something that I'm going to put on my spring bucket list, especially again, as we transition later in the spring, in later May, where it's starting to really warm up. It's going to be the perfect weather, because let me tell you, last summer we saw twisters at the drive-in, and it was hot. It was so hot because you're sitting there with your car off. It can just get so toasty and the windows shut. I know some people like set up in the back of a truck if you have a truck, but if you're in a car, it can get hot in the summer. So I think we need to put drive-ins in the spring as something that we can intentionally set out to do and make it super comfy cozy. Again, keep some blankets, put some pillows there, whether it's in your back seat or if you have an SUV where you can pop up the trunk, make do. Bring a pizza or get a pizza or whatever there. I know, like, it's kind of like the code with movie theaters too. We're all kind of sneaking in our own things. We just don't talk about it. Anywho, we always have to buy the popcorn. You need to have movie popcorn for the movies. But I think the drive-in is so fun, and you can get a bunch of your friends and just go, or go with your mom, whoever it is. I think that drive-ins in spring are just so wonderful, perfectly paired. And on that note, I wrote a little list of some spring movies that I think are just exuding spring energy. And I already talked about this a little bit on my podcast, but wanted to bring it in here as well to give you some spring inspiration. Whether you're having a movie night in at home, or maybe you have a projector that you can project in your backyard, on the wall, on the side of your house, some ideas for you. First of all is The Secret World of Arrietty, which is one of my most favorite movies in general, and definitely one of my most favorite Studio Ghibli movies. And it's based on the book The Borrowers, if you haven't heard of it. So it's these tiny little people that are living in the human world. So a sewing needle is her sword, and she uses a chip clip in her hair. Like, it is just everything to me, and it just feels so spring with seeing the giant flowers and plants that they're running through. The next one, of course, Peter Rabbit and Friends. I prefer the 90s cartoon. I am biased to that, growing up in that time period, but the newer Peter Rabbit movie is pretty enjoyable as well, and definitely perfect for April and May. Then I would be remiss to not talk about Paddington. The Paddington movies are everything in my heart, and Paddington in Peru is going to be available on DVD, I think at the end of April, and I haven't seen it yet. I'm committing to the DVD because I like to own my media, and I have 1 and 2, and they are some of my favorite movies, and I rewatch them time and time again, and Paddington just feels heartwarming and so kind and joyous and perfect for coming out of our winter hibernation into spring. Then Ella Enchanted. I recently thrifted this on VHS, which I was surprised. I'm like, when did Ella Enchanted come out? For some reason in my head I thought it was later in the 2000s, but it must have been early 2000s. I wanted to be Ella Enchanted as a young child, and I feel like I've come back to a place recently where I once again want to be Ella Enchanted. Something so whimsical about it. It's just that princess, kind of Cinderella-esque magic. Of course, also The Secret Garden. Now, you can also have your pick at which year, which era of The Secret Garden you enjoy. I like the 90s one. which I grew up on. I know a lot of people don't like that one. I love it. I have a couple different editions of the Secret Garden books as well, which are very near and dear to my heart, but of course that feels very spring-esque. I feel like that's one that, again, it can also work in the fall, but coming out of winter, it is just the perfect time. And lastly is one that I feel like maybe I missed a little bit growing up, but it's To All the Boys I Loved Before, which I have found in, I think I found in my mid-20s and love them just the same. It brings me back to feeling like a teenager, but in like the good way, in the small little good parts that we really have to dig for from being a teenager, but it just made me feel like, wow, we don't get movies like this anymore. And I just love Lara Jean Covey, and I feel like they feel really spring. The next thing on my little spring bucket list of romanticizing spring is to try gardening. Now is the perfect time here in Canada anyhow to be planting our gardens. Again, we have snow. Usually people aren't planting too much. They might be seed starting inside if you're really fancy. I am not. But we usually don't start planting until after the long weekend in the end of May, to just ensure that there's no permafrost that is going to mess up your plants or anything. But I like to plan, and I like to start my herbs inside. So we don't have a garden since we are not homeowners, but I like to do a little patio garden of herbs. We usually do mint every year, basil, rosemary. Sometimes we'll do a citronella. I don't know if it actually helps with the mosquitoes, but I'd like to think maybe it does. And you can bring them in through the winter, keep them on your windowsill inside, or maybe just do it all from your windowsill. You can do hanging baskets off your balcony. You can do potted flowers. The world is really your oyster if you look into it. And there's so many wonderful, resourceful channels here on YouTube as well to help you with patio gardening. Somewhere in our first year of dating, my partner got me a book called Apartment Apothecaries or something like that, in growing herbs and different flowers from indoors or your balcony, and that's been super helpful for me as well. But there's something about it, and I've kind of learned through time what's hard to keep alive and what's easier. For example, me and basil, we don't get along too well. It's not too good on the self-confidence, but I know mint spreads like a weed and is so hard to let die. So me and mint are best friends. Dry it out, make your own tea, add it to your iced teas, your juices. I just love it. And of course, if you're fancy and do have room for a garden, garden your heart out. Or you can rent community plots. There's community gardens around a lot of cities where you can pay a usually relatively low fee for a plot that you can visit and grow your vegetables there if you don't have room. There's a lot of options is what I'm trying to say. And it doesn't have to be expensive. It can be. Some people are very serious with their gardening, but you can look in your local Buy Nothing groups on Facebook, look for seed swaps happening in your area. A lot of libraries also have seed swaps and gardening community kind of events. Ask your friends if anyone has any clippings that you can propagate. It doesn't have to be wildly expensive is what I'm trying to say. If you're just wanting to dabble in it, just give it a try. Next is spring crafts. Now, I love a craft in the fall and winter when you're all cozy inside, but I think it's also so nice to just embrace the world around you in the spring and craft as well, or take your crafts outside to the patio. Something that I recently discovered that I wanted to mention is this magazine called Cut and Paste Market. Market is the edition. Cut and Paste magazine, there we go. And it's run by a woman in, I believe, the States, a young woman. And the whole concept is you can collage with it. You can use it for whatever creative projects you want to. And I had recently made a video on Instagram talking about snail mail and how I love snail mail and journaling, but I don't have a printer, so I have to work with what I have. With things like something comes with a ribbon on the packaging, or if I have some magazines that I can cut things out of. And that's the whole purpose of this, is artists submitting their photography, their art, and it's put into different editions that you can cut things out of and add to, whether it's a junk journal, or if you're decorating wrapping paper, or sending a card to someone, or scrapbooking, whatever it might be. And this edition is just screaming spring to me. Some farmers markets. Again, it's the market edition. Like gardening, oh, the sunflowers. I'm really, really excited about this and excited to have my hand at some crafting with it. I also think that painting pots for plants is a really fun craft, and we've talked about doing this at the book club that I'm in, since we try and do a craft every month when we get together. But I think this is so fun, even if you're just adding some little bumblebees or painting some flowers onto your terracotta pots. I don't know, maybe seal it with a little Mod Podge. I haven't done this yet, but it's on my bucket list of what I want to do. But the options just feel truly truly endless with that. Another one that I'm interested in trying is those teacup bird feeders. And I'm not going to use, of course, one of my beloved teacups, but a lot of people go and they thrift them and they essentially glue down, I think usually sideways, a teacup like this, and they fill it with bird seed or suet, and then they take a string and they somehow hang this, and it hangs from a tree. If you know, you know, if you've seen it, but they look so cute. And again, I am the bird person. I have all the feeders, and I think that that would be something really sweet to have. Now, keeping the squirrels away from breaking it would be a challenge in itself, but that is a craft that I think fits perfectly for spring. Another one that I haven't done, but is on my list that I want to try is origami flowers. These look so, so cute. I think about them every holiday. Every time I have to write a birthday card, Valentine's Day, how I would love to be able to make little origami flowers. So that's something too where that would be perfect for a rainy day where you're inside, you're watching a movie, you have your tea, and just want to learn something new. And then lastly, in the spring crafts area is perfect for, I'm trying to think, when is this going up? Probably the week before Easter. Perfect timing. It's dyeing eggs with natural foods. So I talked about this in my podcast and had a ton of people send information. You can use onions, you can use beets, you can use cabbage, carrots, all sorts of things to create these natural dyes to dye your Easter eggs. Now, I'm Ukrainian, so we write pisanki, which is like these intricate patterns on eggs. If you've ever seen like a Ukrainian Easter egg, maybe Polish people do them too, I'm not sure. They are a step above what my patience is at. I have a friend that does them and teaches classes, and growing up my grandparents would do it, but they would have me just dye eggs. So I'm happy to carry on my little part, my little contribution. And I haven't dyed eggs in so long. I think it is going to be so healing for my inner child. And to be honest, I have some eggs that are going, I think they're going this week. There's like 6 left. So I don't feel bad because they're not going to go in the garbage. I'm going to be able to repurpose them. The next thing that I just love for spring is to create playlists for your day. Just creating playlists for the different moods, the different ambiances. So maybe you create a playlist called Mornings in the Garden, which is music that you want to play while you're spending your morning or afternoon or whatever it is in the garden. Maybe you make a Parisian baking playlist for when you're going grocery shopping for your baking ingredients and coming home and baking a nice little lemon loaf or strawberry shortcake. Maybe you want a flower walk playlist for your neighborhood walks, appreciating all of the little birds and the flowers. Or a winding down like a 2000s rom-com playlist. I have one of those. It's my early 2000s shower playlist, and it just feeds a very special part of my soul. And something about spring just feels like early 2000s rom-coms. 13 Going on 30, House Bunny, Sydney White, is that what it was called? The Amanda Bynes like play on Snow White one? I just love having a soundtrack for different parts of the seasons and my days. And then lastly on my spring bucket list is to go to the farmers markets and try and eat seasonally and shop seasonally. So instead of going to the grocery store and getting all of your produce there, go to the farmers market first. See what you can find. Maybe you can meal plan a little bit around what's in season, what your local farmers and growers have. Oftentimes there's flower stands as well, which just warms my heart. Lots of like local soaps made from local ingredients. I love it. Oftentimes too, the produce is more affordable. Again, it's local, you can support your community and then go to the grocery store and finish whatever you need to get. But there's something that just feels so spring and that transition of spring leading into summer about going out to the farmers markets. Whether they're inside or outside, doesn't really matter, just getting out there and also engaging in community. I have found so many neat cards and stickers from local artists as well that are set up at the farmers markets. And that is my personal spring bucket list and romanticizing spring concepts that I have. I love living seasonally. I think it is something really healthy we can do for our brains, and winter isn't everyone's favorite. I know it's some, it's not mine. So I am really elated just to be moving out of the cold soon and welcoming in spring. So I hope that one or two of these ideas is inspiring you to embrace spring as well. Let me know what you're all planning for spring, and thank you for being here. YouTube is still very, very new to me. I'm still feeling out how the reception is. So thank you so much for watching and all of the kind words. I don't know what we'll be doing next week, but I will see you sometime soon.